Welcome to another edition of 12.5 Minutes. My name is Jared Kelly. I'm with my friend and co-host, Liz Whitehead.
Hey Jared,
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. I just heard that I'm going to the WeBank conference. I go every year. And this year's conference, Dawn Staley is going to be the keynote speaker.
Really?
Yes. And I
Oh,
know you've had a real interest in women's sports, and she's the coach of the South Carolina women's basketball team. And yeah, so it got me thinking about how we should talk about it.
I think we should. I think that women's basketball is probably the most underrated sport right now for its historic and record-breaking numbers. I mean, I actually checked a few of these things out, and I don't know if people recognize this or not, excuse me, if they recognize this or not, but when it comes down to it, from NCAA to WNBA, all of the numbers are skyrocketing. I'm looking at everything from the viewers for regular season games, NCAA numbers off the chain. They had like 9 or 10 million viewers for the recent NCAA championship game for the women. That's huge. That's like 16% higher than last year. They also have more viewers for the WNBA, higher um, merchandise sales. Like it's just off the charts right now for women's basketball.
And and everyone's making more money. I mean, Dawn Staley is the highest paid coach in NC in women's collegiate basketball. And then, the kind of money that they're bringing in, the kind of contracts they're signing, they're finally making money that women athletes deserve because, and because previously I remember going to this Mystics event and they all had second or third jobs. They're moms, like they're doing a ton of stuff. And that meant it couldn't be their only job, even WNBA players.
Right, right. And and now I think it's changing in multiple ways. So you brought up a couple of great points. One, having multiple jobs. Um, when it comes down to it, these women that are in the WNBA are forced to be 22 years or older, and they're expecting them to have a degree. So first off, there's inequality there, but second off, they're going to be more mature, so they probably have more life experiences under their belt. But as well, it's not just a basketball life; it is a whole life where they may be a mom, they may be looking at this as a true career, and so they are going to look at the money associated with it. Is it sustainable, right? And previously it was not. Then two things changed. NIL changed, and that name, image, likeness when it comes to NCAA players making money off of their name, image, and likeness, that was huge. So now if you have players that can make money while they're still in college, and those colleges want them to stick around because the more attraction they bring to the views, the more equity comes in the television rights, and the more money that the universities make off of the program, including sponsorships. So all of it has a tie together, but certainly a scary part of that is when the money at the next level is not sustainable or it's not that high, and they start looking at other options, kind of like what Brittney Griner did in 2022.
Right. Yeah. Like the inequality is crazy, but then the result is really scary if you have to go play in other countries to just make a living. And then you're subject to whatever their laws and rules are and whatever their beef is with the US. I mean, Brittney Griner was basically caught in beef between the US and Russia at that point, you know, and And that's scary. It's scary to put anyone, and especially a talented athlete, in that situation.
And certainly when it comes down to it, like the United States is not making friends or even allies, if you will, in countries around the world. So it is important. It is important for us to look at the economy and how we appreciate not only in the sports arena, but all of our professionals in various industries. But in this particular case, when it comes to women's sports, um, their safety, their willingness to play all year long is important because their seasons are shorter, right? So they don't have it's kind of like how a teacher can make money during the academic year, but then has to come up with a new solution during the summer, right? And and some just take the time off. Maybe that's great for them. But others say, "Hey, I need to work." And so that idea of looking for opportunities outside the United States, I do believe is scary. I do think that we have a new solution, which was player founded, but as well, I think we also are looking at the valuation of talent, and that's really what's scary right now. Is there's been a push and pull with the WNBA when it comes to um, their contract and their bargaining agreement in terms of how to value players, how to give them the opportunity to participate in the revenue streams that are now growing astronomically, right?
Right. Well, and they're, the WNBA players are tied a lot of times to the NBA teams, right? It's like the same owners, the same people. So that the interest is split. And that if there's a disparity, it's always going to fall down at this point on the NBA players, even if the NBA players aren't as interesting as the WNBA.
Right.
But you mentioned a solution. There's like a genius solution to this.
There is. So Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart did something which I believe is absolutely genius, and they started their own league. They started a league that is founded by players. They're two professionals that said, you know what, we don't need another situation where our friends or our colleagues in this industry have to go outside the United States. So we're going to start up this 3-on-3 league called Unrivaled. And they did it in such a business genius way. Not only did they go to their other basketball colleagues, but they got some of the biggest names and players to agree to play 3-on-3 basketball. It's in the off season, so it doesn't interrupt the WNBA contracts or anything like that. It doesn't compete. It adds an extension of women's basketball throughout the season, so it's growing the sport in and of itself. Then they went and got funding. They treated it like a real business, and they got funding, and they got more and more investment. And so they started looking at, some of the NBA players. NBA players started investing in the league, which was great. Carmelo Anthony, Giannis, Steph Curry, and as you mentioned, formerly mentioned, Dawn Staley even invested in Unrivaled. And when it comes down to it, they raised somewhere around $35 million. They raised $35 million for this league. And when it comes to the growth, what I just read was in September 2025, 1 year later, that investment is worth $340 million from 35
Wow.
million from 35 million to $340 million in 1 year.
Yeah. That's a pretty good investment. Don Staley's gonna have a lot to tell us.
That's genius. That is genius in multiple ways. I mean, the collaboration that's involved, the negotiating, television rights and all that. You got attorneys involved, of course. You got name, image, and likeness issues that you got to work out for players. They want to sell jerseys. They got merchandise. They and they can do it without competing against the WNBA, which is the smartest part because they all have contracts that they've signed, right? But the key is they can make money in both places. And it started by women, not by a couple guys that said, hey, let's take advantage of these women, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's yeah, and Dawn Staley, I'm looking forward to hearing one about her business acumen. I'm sure she's going to tell us about Unrivaled and that investment. But she's also a character. She's
Yes,
also pretty
yes,
hilarious. Yeah.
yes, she is. In my book, to be honest, and I don't know if everyone will agree with me, but during the tournament this year, um, after playing UConn, Dawn Staley's South Carolina team whooped UConn. They did, and they were undefeated. UConn was undefeated, but the reality is in sports, it's a beautiful thing where you get payback. So previous year, okay, you know what? There was a loss, right? South Carolina had a loss. Okay, okay. But Don Staley's like, not again. So when they faced UConn this year, they opened up a can on them. It was all belts. It was all belts. It was all belts. And Gino didn't have anything to say but to get frustrated and disturbed. And he said something out of pocket to Don at the end of the game. And there was a little bit of a dust up, if you will. But my favorite line she says to him, she basically told him, like, literally, I will kick your ass. Like, that is, to me, that is hilarious. That is hilarious
Yeah.
because I, Gino, you might be
She
from
meant
Philly.
that.
You might be from Philly, but she meant this. She said it with her chest, and she said it multiple times to your face, to your face. So you can be bad and bold and say what you want, but your team got belts to ass. That's what happened, and it's okay. Take the loss and be a man about it. Walk away before it gets worse, right? So
Right.
that was hilarious to me because in that space, that masculinity that he was, I guess, trying to present, ooh, you brought it to the wrong
Yeah.
person. You brought it to the wrong person. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don Staley.
Right. And like they're not going to see I mean, they're colleagues, they're peers. They're always at the top,
Yes,
playing each other
yes,
in these tournaments and the 1 and 2 seed or whatever. They're going to see each other again. You guys are colleagues. You're peers.
yes. And it's okay. Like all the teams that you beat, UConn, like there's no graceful defeat, huh? You lost one game
Right.
and you lost. I mean, the players, let me just say this though. Players absolutely showed the right amount of sportsmanship. Their coach did not. Their head coach
Mhm.
did not. So that in and of itself was very disappointing. But how she handled it, that's also genius, but as well hilarious because it just pushed it back on him. Like she's like, I don't need to explain anything. You need to talk to him, figure out where his head is, right? And speaking of that, I think people do sometimes just they talk too much. And another example is RG3 talking bad about Angel Reese. And guess what? Another example where you now have one of the biggest players and biggest individual humans, not only tall but big and wide. His name is Shaquille O'Neal, also known as Sheriff Shaquille O'Neal, should be Sheriff Social Police Shaquille O'Neal because he basically told RG3 similar to what Don Staley said, but a little bit more aggressively that he would rearrange Carter Griffin's face. And that to me is hilarious.
Yeah. It it is. Shaq's always hilarious.
It is. He's acting the fool. So anyway, another great episode of 12.5 Minutes. My name is Jared Kelly. This is Liz Whitehead, and we are out of here. Thanks for watching.
I